How's it going, everybody? Welcome to We Do Tech, and also to my look at the Redragon Lone Wolf 2 or the M721 Pro. So I did not have the Lone Wolf 1. I believe there was probably one. No, I didn't have that one, so we're skipping right to the 2. Now, currently it is retailing for around $35. I was actually able to pick it up for $27 around, a month or two back. So I'm not sure why exactly it went up in price, but it is a bit more expensive currently, maybe with the little bug that's going around. That could be to do with something. However, I'm actually looking forward to trying it a bit more out because unlike some of the other Redragon mice, it actually has a better sensor. It's not still one of the best ones on the market, but it does have a Pixart PM-W3335 sensor, which is pretty good actually and has some pretty good tracking. But anyway, going over the rest of the mouse, firstly, it does have a more medium to larger size body. So if you do have smaller hands, it might be a bit too big, or it's also not one of the larger mouse on the market. So like the Mammoth or so on. It's actually quite right in the middle there, pretty good. Now, also it is right-handed, so if you're left-handed, that's not going to work. It's not ambidextrous, so just keep that in mind. Usually I do get a lot of questions about that. So right-handed use only for comfort. Probably can use left-handed, but I wouldn't really try it. Now, also the material used is actually a lot better than some of the other cheaper mice on the market that I've seen, also from Redragon. Sometimes they do feel a bit on the cheaper side. However, the Lone Wolf 2 actually feels pretty good for that price point. Even when I was able to get it at that $27, that was actually quite good. Now, I did find one bit of an issue with the mouse, and that's because of the very smooth matte finish. It's a bit too smooth. So if you do put it in your hand does slide around quite easily. Now, if you just put a grip on it, it's not too bad, but I would have liked if it was a bit textured, maybe more of that rubberized textured feeling, or just some other type of texture that we have seen on some other mice. Nothing too much, but just that tiny bit. The smoothness does impact the grip a tiny bit as well. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Now, as for grip styles, this is mostly going to be for a palm or a hybrid claw and palm style grip. If you want to, you can probably use it for claw, but claw is usually for a bit smaller mice, and also fingertip style. Possibly it might work, but palm or palm claw style hybrid grip is going to work the best for that. Then for the weight, I'm not exactly sure on the weight, but it is a bit more on the heavier side, not too much, probably in the sub 100 gram range, 95 around there. However, you do have at the bottom this magnetic that you just push. I actually tried to twist it and it didn't twist out, because usually you have to twist it to get it out, and just didn't want to. So all you need to do is press down, it pushes up, and you do have a 9.4 gram weight that you can remove, which does reduce the weight quite significantly. So you do have that option as well. But now moving on to the left side, you do have your slight curve here at the back, but it does actually have this nice rubberized textured grip, which does help keep your thumb in place because, again, of that very smooth matte finish. So that was a necessity that they needed to add. However, you do also get 3 thumb buttons, which I do actually like. I always like more than less, so a nice addition for the top ones, the 2 top ones, and then also the front one here. However, I did find that the front one does have a slight harder press to it, and because you also have to move forward with your thumb, it's a bit harder to press. Not too much, but just a tiny bit. However, because of the thumb placement, it's actually quite nice, where my thumb sits right in the middle and I'm able to press all of the buttons quite easily. So not too bad. I do like that they did add 3 buttons again. However, moving on to the right side, I did find that the curve at the back was a bit too much. It's nothing too crazy, but I did find that my pinky does get caught on that, and it does kind of pushes the mouse a bit towards the side, not straight anymore. Now, I did find that to be a problem on some other mice as well, not just this one. And it's not the biggest problem, but I would have liked if it was a bit more a subtle curve there. But overall, it doesn't have any textured grip, so it is a bit smooth there as well. But yeah, it's a more on the comfortable side than a lot of other mice that I've used. The mouse actually feels pretty good in your hand, and you do have pretty decent control over everything, except being that it's a bit too smooth. Now, moving on to the two front buttons, I am happy to say that they are actually pretty good. I didn't experience any travel delay or double clicking going on. They were pretty spot on and nice and snappy, and also not too loud. Now, I'm not exactly sure on what switches they use. It's probably Omron. It's usually Omron switches, so you can expect probably around 10 to 20 million click alive a cycle. And also the curve on the buttons are actually nice and slight, so your fingers does actually sit quite comfortable in between the switches. However, just like the rest of the mouse, of course, it is a bit too smooth there as well, where my fingers would slightly move around. Nothing too crazy again. I didn't ever really mispress or my fingers slid off the mouse or anything. It was just a tiny bit smooth. That's all. Then moving on to the scroll wheel, you do actually have a pretty nice scroll wheel here. It does have a rubberized textured grip, and it does also have RGB rings around the side, which of course always looks good. And for the scroll wheel, the scroll is actually very silent, and the steps between each scroll is actually very slight as well. So if you do like more pronounced steps, then this might be a bit of an issue for you. You hardly feel that steps in between, so just keep that in mind as well. But with that, this scroll wheel is quite silent, so you're not going to hear that irritating scroll sound. And then you can also press it down for an additional button. Then behind that, you do have your DPI selection switches, both up and down. So each one of those do also have a set of colors, so you know on which DPI level you're on, either red, blue, green, pink. So you do have 5 levels ranging between 1000 to 16,000, and you can go set those inside the software as well, which we'll get into a bit later. Then you will also notice that you do have a third button here at the back, and this one is to control the RGB lighting around the sides and for the scroll wheel, and also here at the front. I do actually like that you do have that lighting at the front as well. Now, you don't have too many effects. You do have 7 effects that you can switch between, so it's pretty standard effects and nothing too crazy. I would have liked if it was more seamless, the lighting, but overall, it's definitely usable and it does look pretty good. Let's just see what else you get. Now, I'm usually stick with just the rainbow wave effect. That kind of looks the best to me, but if you want to, you can choose something else. And again, in the software, you will be able to change that once we get into that. And then quickly taking a look underneath the mouse, you do have 2 large glide pads at the front and at the back. They are Teflon and they are actually pretty smooth, even on a not mouse pad surface. They do actually slide around quite easily. You do also have your 5 mode profile switch button that's going to change between the 5 profiles that you can go set inside the software as well. So you do have that. And then finally, you do have your Pixart PMW3335 optical sensor, which is more of a mid-tier sensor, but honestly, mid-tier and high-tier sensors are so close these days. It does perform quite well and does have really good tracking. And as for the specs, the sensor does have a max DPI of 32,000, although I'm not sure why you would go that high. It does have an IPS of 400, which is quite a good acceleration of 40G, 1000 Hz polling rates at max, and also a very low liftoff distance of around only 1 DVD. I do like that. Now, I did find that you do have some sensor rattle. That's usually if the sensor rattles a bit. It's not the scroll wheel or any of the buttons. So I do find that usually on the more affordable mice that you do have that sensor rattle. Nothing that really impacts the performance. It's just, if it's not there, it just feels like a more premium mouse, and it's usually also a lot more expensive. So yeah, we're just gonna stick with that. Now, as for the software, you can find that not necessarily on the website, but on the Amazon.com product page. So you can just go check there. There's a short link in the description. It's not highlighted or anything. You'll just have to read a bit to find that. But you can go download it from there. And once you have that installed, you do have some control over the mouse. I'm actually glad that Redragon added a bit more controls towards this particular mouse. Sometimes it is a bit more on the very down a low software design. So you do have all of your buttons that you can control here. So you do have 9 buttons that you can go reprogram if you wanted to. Add a bunch of different controls, pretty standard there. You do have your 5 profile buttons that you can select between. You do have your acceleration that you can apply if you want to, pointer speed, scroll speed, double click speed, and then also your polling rates. You have your DPIs here as well. So again, you do have 5 levels. You can take it up to a max of 30 to 1,000, but it does have increments of 100 if it's just slightly. You can't. There we go. Ever so slightly. Nah, it's hard. So you do have that option as well. I'm just gonna keep it. No, down. There, 800. We're gonna keep it there. Then next up, you do have your lighting effects. So again, you can either control it on the mouse itself, or you can control it inside here at the software. So breathing, rainbow wave, a full lighted wave, go with a trace, reactive, flash, and you can also turn it off. You have a bunch of different controls here as well. You can custom lighting, the brightness levels, the brightness of the speed of the effect, and then so on. You just go play around with that and see what you personally like, and then finally you have just your info. So then that's just pretty much it for my quick look at the Redragon M721 Pro, or the Lone Wolf 2. The names are sometimes a bit hard to remember just off my head. So it's actually a pretty decent mouse. Now I would have liked if it stayed around that $27. 35 is a tad upwards. So I would have liked if it was a bit more cheaper. So hopefully after this entire bug thing that's going around is cured or just resolved, hopefully the price can lower down a bit more, because I think at the $27 is actually pretty good. But $35, it is getting up there where you can get some other really good mice for just $5 more or $10 more. It's $10 more, but you can get a pretty good mouse then. So yeah, I would still say it's a pretty good mouse. Just like if they'll drop it down to that $27 again, then I think it's definitely worth checking out if you are looking for a mouse with pretty good RGB lighting around the sides, multiple buttons, weights that you can remove, and also again a pretty good sensor. That Pixar BMW 3335 sensor is actually pretty good. So yeah, there you go, my review of the Lone Wolf 2. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. A big thanks to Redragon for sending it over for review. If you guys like it, check out the link in the video description. I will leave it there, and I will check all of you guys next time. Cheers, guys.